Good morning and welcome to Flow Academy's class, Daily Navigator. This is very exciting. This is the flagship kind of the center stone of how we really try and incorporate living in flow in our life. And so there's a form that we're going to show you that is the basis of that and how to create it for you. Now, if you want to, and we'll show you this at the end. You can always get more information or send us emails at info@flowacademy.com. And please check out our website, flowacademy.com as well, for more information about signing up or being a Flow Academy. Now, one of the things that is super challenging, at least for me, and I think for a lot of realtors, is being held accountable. For me, this was like a bad word, like discipline or boring. These are the words that this is the connotation I got from the word accountable. I wanted to be free flowing and willy nilly and kind of come and go as I please, and it'll all work out, won't it? And there's a lot of truth to the fact the idea of wanting to be being part of being in flow is going with the flow, but at the same time, there still needs to be some accountability to create that living in flow experience. As I decided I wanted more accountability, then I looked into getting accountability, and it was actually quite expensive. If I really wanted to have coaching that really held me accountable, it was like literally thousands of dollars a month. And I still had this, like, it's not really going to be fun. You know, the number one reason that people get into real estate, I've talked to hundreds of them before they've gotten in. And I always ask, so why do you want to be in real estate? And the number one thing they say is, I just want flexibility with my time, which is another way of saying I don't want to be held accountable. So I think it goes hand in hand, not always, but certainly with a lot of agents, that, you know, the thing that makes us great is also the things that make it challenging for us. The things that makes it great for us are personalities. People like to hang out with us and all that, but typically those same people that are fun loving and, kind of gregarious and attract relationships also are not really disciplined people. It's not always the case. If you're not that person, don't be offended, but that's just a lot of people. So what if there was a way to be held accountable, but was also fun and sustainable and inexpensive or even free? And that's what we're wanting to talk about today. You know, I would go to these classes, I would say, like a ninja or other coaching programs for a weekend. And I would get all these great ideas and I would think, oh, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, only to find out by, Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday of that week, I didn't really implement any of them. And by 2 weeks later, I had forgotten everything, that even was put out there for me to do. And I was back to my old ways of just kind of doing whatever I was reacting to rather than being purposeful about instigating and putting things into place that really were going to make a difference in my overall effectiveness, in how I created my business, and also to have less chaos, because I wasn't constantly reacting to things. I was being more proactive. I just didn't have that. So the Daily Navigator is a tool that to be used only on the days that you want to be held accountable. So what I mean by that is, this is not necessarily something that you have to do every day. In fact, if you are new to the Daily Navigator, and we're going to talk about this more, but it shouldn't be done necessarily every single day. And it's only for the things that you want to be held accountable for. In other words, you're deciding on a daily basis, what are the things I want to be held accountable for today? Nobody else is deciding these things for you. And the reason I say both of these things is, the startup on this thing can seem and feel a little bit overwhelming. When you look at the Daily Navigator, we're going to use it as an example, which is mine. It is fairly thorough. I do use it basically every day, Monday through Friday. And there's a lot of stuff on there, and it can be intimidating. So the thing I want you to keep in mind as we're going through this process is, this is a building process, and we're starting with, kind of baby steps. Do it maybe once or twice a week and build up to maybe 5 days a week if you, as you become more comfortable with the habit of being held accountable. And don't choose, 5 things in each category. Maybe choose 1 or 2 things in each category, personal, professional, and then build from there. Now, the other thing that's important about this to keep in mind is this is not a to-do list. This is not, pick up the laundry and, whatever little items that are kind of on a to-do list. I have a to-do list. It's a separate thing. This is a must do this list. This is a commitment to doing certain things. And that's why it's so important to be purposeful about what you are deciding to commit to that day, because you're basically making kind of a personal contract with yourself and your accountability group. So today, we're going to help you create your own daily navigator. We're going to target your first accountability group, and then we're going to teach you how to have it be most effective in the use of the daily navigator class, the sheet itself. So creating your own daily navigator, it's broken down into 5 basic categories. The first category isn't anything that you have to do any day, but I like to highlight it because really this is the commitment that you're making to yourself and your accountability group, is that these are the commitments I make to myself and my accountability partners that I will complete today with the urgency that I would show as if my life depended on it. This is my must-do list. Now, I know that sounds dramatic, but the idea is that we're really being committed to these ideas. And then we're at the other part is it's signed. That's why I have the signature circled there. It's like we're signing this as a contract to ourselves. Now, the first part where you're going to make decisions about what you want to be held accountable to is kind of a personal development side. So these things are not directly necessarily correlated to business, but really about your personal life. So this is mine. I want to reiterate. This is what mine looks like. Yours doesn't have to look like this. We're going to help you build your own later. But in mind, I have drink my greens. Those are, what are those? Nutritional drink that you put in. The reason it's on there is that literally without it being on there, I just forget to do it. I want to do it. It takes almost no time. But if I haven't committed to it, I just won't do it. On the other hand, if I look at the list, this is how this works, by the way, this is a big part of it is, oh yeah, I committed to doing my daily, to drink my greens. So the same thing goes for everything else on there. So meditation, affirmations, spiritual self-improvement reading, and exercise. Now, I don't necessarily do every one of those things each day. What I do is I check the box next to the ones that I do want to commit to. So for example, the top 4 things I mostly do every day, but the exercise one, I do probably 5 days a week. So on the days that I'm not going to do exercise, I don't check that box. Now, on the other hand, if I do check exercise, you'll notice there's a line next to it. It's because I want to quantify what am I going to do. I don't want to just check the box exercise without saying in my mind, okay, I'm going to run 5 miles today, or I'm going to do 30 minutes of Peloton, or I'm going to go work out at the gym. Whatever it is, it needs to be quantified. Okay, so the second section is for business stuff. Now, there's some of these we think on there that really basically everybody should do. And there's some that you can, kind of play around with. And obviously there's ones on here that don't pertain to, realtors, for example. Like for me, it has on there, make a daily flow video. That's something that we do here at Flow Academy. It's got nothing to do with you. That wouldn't be on your list. But meeting with a certain amount of people face to face. And then the line again is to quantify. So if I look at my calendar and I say, okay, I know that on a regular basis, and actually I'm going to back up a little bit further. Kevin did a class a few weeks ago about business planning for next year. And one of the things that was on that class was the calculator to figure out how many people you need to meet with on a regular basis to achieve the goals that you've already decided. So if we've backed out those numbers, for me, that means that I meet with about 3 people per day face to face, whether it's break bread or a Zoom meeting or I show a house, whatever it is, that the numbers are basically I want to be meeting with about 3 people on average per day. It doesn't need to be exactly that, but that's what I'm shooting for. So I would put down on there, I will typically put down, I'm going to meet with 3 people. Now, ideally, I've been working with my phone calls to set up most of those appointments before that day even arrives. So I know that I've already committed to that, but I've got that target number in my head. Touches is the next one. And that's talking to people with some kind of meaningful exchange. So it doesn't mean leaving a message, unless you leave a really meaningful message that is just something where you know is going to land and have an impact on them. But saying, hey, it's Rick, call me back, that doesn't count as a touch. But when you have a conversation with somebody, or a meaningful exchange on text, or somebody's emailing you and you're going back and forth about anything, whether it has to do with real estate or not, that counts as a touch. And so we want to quantify those. For me, that's about 10 per day. Forward questions, we're going to get into this later, but the point is that here's a list of all the things in business that I want to be purposeful about that day. I'm going to check the boxes of the things that I intend to do. Now, if I look at my calendar and I go, gosh, I've got 8 appointments today, I'm probably not going to be able to touch that many people. I'm going to make that number a little bit lower. Maybe I'll make it 2 or 3. It's rare that I'm going to talk to less than 5 people just by happenstance. So I probably don't need to do it less than that. But the point is I'm being purposeful about what I'm trying to do. So we go right down the line: thank you cards, make video content. This may or may not be important to you, and so forth. So that's the business. That's the business section there. And then the last part is, not the last part, but the second to last part is the gratitude and affirmation. So one of the things that's so important about being in flow is that state of being in gratitude. And the best way to be in gratitude is to take a moment and go, what am I grateful for? It's super difficult to be in a bad mood and grateful at the same time. But what does work a lot of times when you're in a bad mood, for me anyway, is, gosh, what should I be grateful for? Oh, maybe as simple as things like, I've got a roof over my head. I have access to clean drinking water. I have a car that works, or my health. I can go for a run or whatever. Like the really simple things that it's easy to take for granted and get wrapped up in our day-to-day, like what isn't going right, and flip that around to what you're grateful for. And then the last section, and we'll tell you when to fill these things out. The last section is like a mini journal. This is what I struggled with today. This is what I learned today. This is the great idea that I had, or the epiphany that I had, or here's a plan that I have for my business. Someplace to write that down. It's important that you're writing things down with a pen. There's something that happens magically when you're writing it down and it's connecting to your brain, rather than just typing in a computer or even just thinking about it. The last part is our accountability group, and we're going to figure out, or help you figure out, who a good accountability group is for you. But having those names down there is an acknowledgement of who it is that's in your accountability group. So once you've created your own form, and we're going to show you how to do that in the morning, like I said, you check the boxes of the things that you intend to do. So this is what mine looks like, and whatever day this was, there's no date on it. But so in this one, I did happen to check all the personal items. So I was going to run for 5 miles. I went down and checked these boxes here: meet with 2 people, touch 10 people that day, have 5 forward conversations. We'll talk about that later if you don't know. Make some video. I wasn't going to do daily flow that day. I wasn't going to send anything out on Facebook. I was going to write everything in my weekly Navigator. We'll show that later. And then something to do. So we'll talk about that as well, but something from the should do list and so forth. And I signed it. Then I sent it out to my accountability group. Here they are. It's not actually them, but this is what we want your accountability to look like in your mind. These are people that are rooting for you. They're excited for you. These are friends of yours in different capacities, and we'll talk about that in a minute, that you're saying to them, hey, I'm committing to doing these things, so that when the day starts going and we get distracted by a squirrel, or even a really distracting squirrel, or our moods start to determine what we're going to do or not. I mean, if you're like me, I have these great ideas in the morning, and then I start going, I don't really feel like working out, actually, or I don't really feel like calling 10 people. That seemed like a lot. I'll call 5 people, or whatever it is, that we are remembering, oh, we have our accountability group that is counting on us. We told them we were going to do this, and it has an amazing impact. It's funny how I'll be accountable to other people way more than I'll be accountable to myself. And that's just how it works. So my question for you is, what would it be like if you did all the things you said you were going to do? Now, if you're one of these people that always does the things that they say they're going to do, you know what? You probably don't need the Daily Navigator. I'm not one of those people, and a lot of people aren't. So this is what we think your life would be like if you did all the things that you decided you wanted to do on a purposeful basis. Remember, we're not telling you what to do. These are things that you've decided you wanted to do. And then you get to live in flow, right? You get to have the benefits of living a purposeful life rather than a reactive, chaotic life. Now, it does seem like a lot. I don't think I can do all that stuff. Do I have to do all these things? And the answer is no, you don't have to do any of them. That's the point. You get to decide what you want to be purposeful about on any given day. The idea is that you're building up to having a purposeful life and that you are being true to yourself. What are the important things that we know needs to happen? So let's get into, because some of you have already seen all that stuff. You were on other classes where we talked about the Daily Navigator. Now we're going to talk about creating your own Daily Navigator. Now, if you should have gotten an email last night with a Daily Navigator worksheet. If you didn't, in the chat, you can click on the link. It says Daily Navigator worksheet, and you should be able to download a worksheet to start creating your own. So the first things that we're going to talk about are the personal development stuff, right? So these are life skills, exercise, meditation, spiritual stuff, reading books, and so on. It's what's going to be at the very beginning of your Daily Navigator. So it's in the section that says list of personal accomplishments for which you want to be held accountable for on a regular basis. So remember, you're not necessarily doing these things every day, but you're creating your own cafeteria that you're going to choose from on a regular basis. This can be a work in progress. I typically tell people, and what I do is I print out about 20 or 25 at a time of my Daily Navigator, because it kind of evolves. Like, for example, the thing about drinking my greens, that wasn't on there 6 months ago. And there was other things like, what was on there for a while? I was working on a book. So I had that, write one page from my book was on there, and spend 30 minutes on the guitar. I was learning how to play guitar with my son. So that was on there. So it's a changing thing, but what are other things that you might want to be purposeful about? So on your worksheet there, write down the things. You can certainly steal the ideas that I have on there. We really, really encourage the exercise, the meditation / spirituality, and now I'm drawing a blank on. But some of those things on there are super important, but you may have other stuff, family time or volunteering. Like I said, writing a book. What are the behaviors that you'd like to add to your life to make sure that you do them more often? So I'm just going to give you a couple minutes to write those down. If you're watching this, a recorded version, obviously just take a pause and, take a minute to write these things down. We should have some music, some writing music. I could sing, but I won't.
And thank you for that.
You're welcome, Kevin. And you can always revisit this as well, obviously, but the idea is things that you would, I don't know, for me, I would find myself at my office going, God, what would it be like? This is pre-Daily Navigator, obviously. What would it be like if I meditated every day? That would probably make my life a lot better. Exercise wasn't even on the table, to be honest, at that time. I didn't even consider exercise. I thought, oh, exercise, that seems like a bad idea. Who wants to do that? And now I exercise all the time. All right. So let's go on. You can circle back to your personal stuff. Let's go to business stuff here a little bit. So this is what it's going to look like in your section, not necessarily these exact things. We would encourage you to steal some of these, meeting with people. Remember, this is a relationship business. Flow Academy, in our view, is all about relationships. This is not about buying leads or Zillow stuff. I'm not saying we're necessarily against that or not, but we haven't really found an effective way to do online purchase of leads. There's no There's no ratio to work to ultimate business on your ROI. Really, very few people are doing that successfully. So our thing is all about relationships. This is a contact sport. This is eyeball to eyeball. This is phone calls. This is face to face. So definitely having things in there like meeting people with face to face, having what we call break breads. This is having any kind of meal, coffee, drinks after work, food, and so forth. Those are important. Touches, text messages, phone calls, emails that are meaningful, not necessarily about real estate. And I know that some coaching programs are like, you have to, engage about real estate. We don't think that's necessarily the case. Obviously, sometimes there needs to be conversations about real estate, and usually there is a natural direction that goes. But really, it's more about being curious about people's lives. That's a bigger thing for us. That's where the forward questions come in. Sorry, I'm a little bit ahead of myself. So touches. Okay, so let's talk about forward questions really quick. Forward questions are a form of how you can communicate with people and making it about them. One of the books that we love is Ninja. And in Ninja, they talk about time of possession in a conversation. In this conversation, there isn't, I have all the time of possession. This is not how you would want to have a conversation with a client or a friend. It's more about asking them about their lives. Tell me about what's going on with your family. Ideally, you know the names of their kids or wives or husbands or themselves. Tell me what's going on. And then they tell you whatever, and then say, tell me more, or, be genuinely curious about their lives. And then the same formula with their work, and the same formula with what are they doing for fun? We use the word recreation. You don't say, what are you doing for recreation? But it's like, hey, what are you doing for fun these days? What do you have coming up that you're looking forward to is a great conversation. And then dreams is, kind of bigger life stuff. And again, if you know that people do business with people who they know, like, and trust, and that's a version of creating that. Now, I'm not looking for you to be false here. Authenticity is key to what we're working on. So personal notes, thank you cards are a lost art. I hate writing them. I'm not good at it. But people receive these thank you cards, and it has an impact on them. Whether it's a thank you card, hey, it was great to meet you for coffee, or just a personal note, hey, I was thinking about you. I hope you and your family are doing well. Let's get together for coffee one of these days, something like that. Sending out a couple of those a day will do amazing things for cultivating relationships. Video content. Now, this is where it starts to be less. Some people just are like, I'm not doing video content. That I get it. I think that you should I encourage you to consider it, but having it down on my daily navigator for me is important. Otherwise, it really won't get done. And I like doing video content, but I just don't do it unless I commit myself to doing it. Social media as well. This is one of those things where, I, for example, hire somebody to do my social media for me. That goes into the category of Who Not How, another book that we really like, leveraging other people's experience. People are better at doing social than me, but if you're not there yet, or if that's something you like to do, but you want to be purposeful about, one way or the other, it is important. You do need to be engaging on social media. Now, on my list, I've got my weekly navigator. This is a whole nother class, so I don't want to go into it too much, but basically every day is listed here for me, Monday through Friday, and the weekend. And I keep track of who my calls are, how many people I met with face-to-face, my cards and so forth. And this is a way for me to look at my week at a glance and go, oh, I only had 5 touches on Monday. I need to probably figure out how to get those extra 5 in on Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, or vice versa. If on Monday, like yesterday, I think I had 15 contacts or something like that, I don't have to do as much on Tuesday or Wednesday, right? Or this week, it's a short week, I'm not weeking. But the idea is that I'm really paying attention to, how am I really doing these things that are going to keep my life in flow?
I'm not sure what the rate he will.
Oh, I've got somebody's not muted. I can't see who it is, but just so you know, if you were just talking. Okay, so something from my should do list. Like this is, I just added this in the last 6 months, And actually, it was from I hired a coach for ADD. If you haven't picked up on that, I have ADD, and it was all about getting those things done that I just don't think about doing, that are on my kind of my should do list. So for me, it might be something for business, like I need to schedule or make sure I work with Nicole on scheduling a client event, or calendaring out when we're going to do mailings or whatever it is. So in other words, something that doesn't necessarily make it on a daily list, but something that's important, but not yet urgent. So it's something to go from that category. You can also write personal things on there that you've been meaning to do, like that pile of stuff that's ended up in that flat surface in your kitchen that everything gets put to, cleaning that out or whatever it is. But the idea is that you're then that project is then going to get done. And then other is a similar thing, like what are the things that I want to make sure gets done? It isn't on my should do list. It isn't everything else, but it needs to get done. So hopefully, as I've been telling you these things, you've been writing some of these things down on your worksheet. I should have told you to do that as I was talking, but I didn't. So I apologize. Because now we're going to, and you can obviously circle back to that. If you're watching it recorded, you maybe pause and go back and make up my mistake. Okay. So we're not going to do, we already talked about where gratitude and observations go. That's just something you fill out after you've done all of the things during the day and you're getting ready to send it back out to your accountability partners. Now, everybody has their own accountability group. Right now, we have, we're fortunate enough that if you want Kevin or I and Nicole to be part of your accountability group, we're willing to do that. But that won't always be the case here. If you're on the class, we're willing to do that. But what your accountability group should be made up of is basically 3 different kinds of people. Now, it could be multiple people in each category. So in other words, you're not limited to 3, but you ultimately want to be building towards these 3 different people. One is a mentor. So that's a manager, a coach, somebody who's just in the business that you look up to and you would like to help from them. That would be a mentor. A peer is somebody that you're, they don't necessarily even have to be in real estate, but somebody who is kind of on track with you career-wise, trying to be purposeful about their day. Not somebody that you necessarily look up to, but somebody who is important to you, a friend, somebody that you're close to. By the way, none of these people have to also do the Daily Navigator. So if they want to, and a lot of them will, great, but it's not, you don't have to be thinking in your mind, wait, who's willing to do the Daily Navigator? Also, they don't have to do that. And the last thing is the kind of the sneaky important one, which is the mentee, somebody that you are being an example to. Somebody that you maybe is in your office that is new to real estate and you think, that person's really nice, or I want to see them succeed, or I want to be helpful to them. Having somebody that you're accountable to as a leader yourself is kind of rounds out the what we feel like is the perfect mix of an accountability group, because each one of those people is going to have their own impact on your willingness to continue to do those things during the day, that when a squirrel comes up, or when you get distracted by a mood or whatever, that you go, wait a minute, I told those people that I was going to get this done. I got to make sure I get this done. So take a minute to consider who those people might be. Again, on your worksheet there, who are the people that you trust, to whom you would be held accountable? And for a mentor, who do you look up to or admire? Or who do you want to be more like? For a peer, it might be who's a close friend that you trust and feel like you can tell anything to, someone who's always in your corner, even if it means telling you something that you don't want to hear. And who's a great cheerleader for you? Part of the great thing about the accountability group is that you send this out when you're done and you get like a thumbs up. These are your personal, this is like having a home game every time for a sports analogy, these are people that are cheering for you. They want to see you succeed. Who do you want to know that's working hard? I think for a lot of people, having their spouse or significant other, or maybe even their kids, send this to them to show them, hey, this is what I do every day. You think that I don't do anything? Check this out. And who do you want to be a good example to? Again, maybe it's your kids, maybe it's somebody at work, a younger agent, or again, doesn't have to be somebody in real estate. A lot of these principles are just being purposeful about your life. Who do you think would benefit from seeing the things that you do on a daily basis? These are the people that should make up your first accountability group. So if you want them to be on your group, if you want them to be part of your accountability group, give them a call. Say, hey, I'm doing this thing now. I'm going to try it. It's this daily navigator, it's accountability, and tell them what it is and what you're trying to achieve. Let them know that they don't also have to do it. And then, of course, send them a thank you. Okay, so from that, you should be able to create your own daily navigator. And I think we sent you a blank daily navigator. It is really important that you create your own, as opposed to, and I don't think we even sent you mine, but don't recreate mine. We have a lot of people doing this, and a lot of people just take mine and scratch out some of my stuff on there. Don't do that. Create your own. So here's some frequently asked questions, and then we're going to open it up for other questions for you guys in just a second. Does it have to be on paper? It seems like a lot of work. Isn't there an electronic version? So this is the most frequent question we get. I'm all about the environment. I don't like wasting paper. I totally get it. Here's the thing. Writing it down, and we talked about this a little bit earlier, using a pen and doing it that way has a different impact than it does than clicking a box or typing on your computer or on your phone. So could you do it electronically? I did have one guy do it electronically for a while. You create your own PDF. There's a way to do that. I just don't encourage it. In other words, it's on purpose that we're doing it that way. Do you do this every day? So for me, I do it Monday through Friday. One of the things that's great about the business that I've designed for me is I'm basically a Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 guy. Now, do I have some appointments outside of 5 o'clock or on the weekends? Occasionally, yes. But I actually have basically like a 40-hour work week. And if some of you may be on this call, like, that is impossible. There's no way that my life can be that way as a realtor. And the answer is, that's a mindset that you've developed for yourself. That is not true. You 100% can have a Monday through Friday, non-chaotic, totally normal, relatively normal life if you want. So for me, I do it Monday through Friday. I don't do it on the weekends. You may want to do it every single day, or you may want to do it only 3 days a week. You get to decide what that is. So how do we choose what should be on Daily Navigator? We already just went through that. Let's see. It seems like a lot of stuff. I don't think I can do all that stuff. Do I have to do all the things? No, you don't. This is so important. Just check the boxes of the things that you want to be held accountable to that day. The most common problem, the thing that slows people down the most, is they're over aggressive in the morning, choosing what they're going to do, and then they get overwhelmed during the day and they cannot finish it, especially because they're not used to being purposeful and being mindful of following their daily navigator as their priority list rather than the distractions of the day. So the key thing is start slow, start small, and build from there. Just like if you were going to start working out or become a runner or whatever, you don't go and run a marathon, the first time you do it. You go out and you run for half a mile or a mile and you build from there.